She Stood, an original story from SufferingWell. The wind on Golgotha was dry and sharp, stirring the dust around her feet. It clung to her garments and caught in her hair, but she did not move. Mary stood, not in defiance of sorrow, but in communion with it. She did not cling to hope in the way some might understand it. Her hope was deeper, braided into her very bones, rooted in a promise she could not yet see fulfilled. Around her, the sky darkened unnaturally. Clouds gathered with a weight that mirrored her soul, but her eyes never left her son. She could not cry aloud. She had no strength for wailing. Her grief was not the kind that flailed. It was the grief of a woman who had long since said yes to the sword. She remembered, not because she wished to, but because suffering demands remembrance.
The first sword, Simeon's prophecy. He had been so small in her arms. Newborn warmth pressed to her chest, wrapped in linen she had prepared in Nazareth. She had walked into the temple carrying the Son of God as if he were any other child, because he was hers, even as he was the world's. And Simeon, that holy man, had taken him and praised God. But then he had turned to her, eyes full of compassion and gravity. A sword will pierce your own soul, too. She had clutched Jesus a little tighter, confused. She had smiled politely, as one does when sorrow is spoken before it arrives. But she remembered that sword. Yes, it had come.
The second sword, flight into Egypt. She had fled in the night. Joseph's breath had been urgent, his hand steady on her arm. We must go now. No time for farewells, no time to understand why the world already wanted him dead. She remembered the rhythm of the donkey's gait, the ache in her arms from holding Jesus while he slept, the fear, the uncertainty, and yet she had not cursed the road.
The third sword, lost in the temple. 3 days. It had been 3 days. How does a mother lose the Son of God? She had searched the streets of Jerusalem, panic rising with the sun each morning. She had called his name until her throat burned. But when she found him, calmly teaching in the temple, he had looked at her with eyes far too old for 12 years. Did you not know I must be in my Father's house? That day she learned again that he was hers, but not hers alone.
Now the fourth sword, the way to Calvary. She had known he would suffer. She had known, hadn't she? But knowing is not the same as watching it unfold. The streets had been narrow, packed with people. Some wept, some shouted. She moved through the crowd without seeing their faces, only his, bloodied, bruised, bent beneath the wood of the cross. Their eyes met. For one breath, one eternity, he looked at her as only a son can look at his mother, and in his gaze there was no plea for rescue, only love. She had not crumpled. She did not run to him. She stood still.
The fifth sword, the crucifixion. John had taken her hand. He had brought her close as the soldiers would allow. The hammer's ring still echoed through her ribs. And there he was, her child, her God. The nails held him to the wood, but it was love that kept him there. Love for them, love for her, love for the ones who had mocked and spat and struck. She stood at the foot of the cross as the sky split open with grief, as the veil between heaven and earth was torn under the weight of divine mercy. He spoke few words. He saved one of them for her. "Woman, behold your son." And to John, "Behold your mother." Even then, his heart was full of giving. He wasn't simply entrusting her to John for safekeeping, nor John to her for comfort. He was giving her to all of us, and us to her. In giving her to the disciple he loved, Jesus, the head of the body, was giving his mother to the entire body of Christ. She had not only borne the head, she had borne the whole. Her motherhood did not end at Bethlehem. It expanded here, on this hill, in this hour, through this offering. From that moment, she became Mother of the Church, our Blessed Mother. And she embraced that call as she embraced all others, with a full and silent yes. Her soul pierced, Mary stood. She did not cry out. She did not faint. She stood like a pillar carved by grace, united in love, in suffering, in redemption, not equal, but united in surrender.
The sixth sword, the body taken down. She did not rush forward when he died. She waited. When they lowered him from the cross, she stepped forward. They laid him in her arms the way they had 33 years before. This time, there was no warmth, no breath, just the weight of her yes. She did not weep then either. Instead, she traced the wounds with her fingers, reverently. She kissed his bloodied forehead and smoothed his hair, now matted with blood. She cleaned what she could with her veil. No words passed her lips. Her silence was her psalm of unshed tears.
The seventh sword, the burial. The tomb was near. She walked beside those who carried him, not as one broken by grief, but as one carrying it with sacred strength. She watched them wrap his body. She watched the stone rolled in place. And she stood. Even then, she stood. As others turned away, shielding their eyes, Mary remained. She laid her hand on the cold rock and closed her eyes. Her heart broke in 100 places, but she did not curse God. She did not despair. She trusted, not because it was easy, but because it was him.
After the stone, John brought her to the upper room. She let him. She did not speak for a long time. Her prayers were wordless, woven in sighs and memory. She remembered his smile, his laugh, his hands learning to shape wood beside Joseph, his voice echoing in quiet places, the day he turned water to wine, and the way he'd looked at her when she told him they had none. Everything he did, she pondered. Everything he suffered, she bore. The 7 swords had found their mark. They would never leave her, but she would not demand they be removed. Her heart, pierced and open, was where redemption bloomed.
And still she stands. In every generation since, she stands. At hospital bedsides, in prisons, in war-torn places and quiet chapels, she stands beside all who suffer, not as a distant queen, but as a mother who knows. And always, always she points to him. She does not seek applause. She does not ask for understanding. She stands in silent, trusting love, intentional, courageous, full of grace. And when we find ourselves at the foot of our own crosses, pierced by sorrows we never saw coming, we find her there, already waiting, and still, she stands.